All right, John, we got the grand tour of your factory here in Vista, California, and I really appreciate it. So,
My pleasure, thanks.
It was really cool because I actually learned a whole bunch from this trip. I thought I was just going to come here, hey, shoot some filming, some stuff being made, and shoot a few cool videos, but I'm not an expert at HVLP spraying. It's new to me. I mean, I started off spraying with airless sprayers for 20 years. I met you, started spraying, with HVLPs. I went back to airless sprayers. I've come back to HVLP sprayers again, and I've come here and you've taught me a whole lot. So I gotta say thank you for that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go back and implement some of the stuff that I've learned from you, and my audience is here and they may not know a whole lot about Apollo Sprayers. And can you just give me just a little history of your company? You are a family owned and operated company. Your son's been working with us today here shooting video and stuff. We've got to see some employees that have worked here 23 years. So can you just give us a little bit of background? Because I think it's important, it's important for me that we support local family owned and operated companies. So.
Yeah. Apollo was originally founded in 1966 in England. And it was actually one of my father's friends that started the company. And there still is an Apollo Sprayers in the UK right now, which is a separate business from ours. But in the late 70s, we brought the product over to the US and started selling it to woodworkers and contractors and things like that. And we basically pioneered HVLP in this country. There's been other brands that have come and gone since then, but we're actually the oldest original manufacturer that still focuses just on HVLP turbine systems. My father has been doing it since, like I said, the late 70s. I became introduced into the company. I remember as a little kid going to our little 500 square foot factory at the time. And my dad would bring in kits from England at that time, and we'd assemble them in the evening, and then he'd load them into the car, and the next day he'd go off and do some demos and sell them all, and then come back and we'd do the same thing. And that's kind of how we started the business, and things have grown obviously a lot since those early days. But I think the biggest thing is that I've grown up in this business, right? My dad's owned it, started it since I was around 13 years old. And kind of like the same with what my son's been able to do now too. So you kind of might say that turbine systems are in our blood.
Right.
And because it's our passion, it's something that we do and we try to do the very best, right? Whenever I do anything in my life, period, I don't like to do something half-ass. I just like to go after it. If I'm really going to do something, I try to put 110% into it.
Right.
And that's what we do here at Apollo. Everything that we do is built around the contractor.
Right.
We listen to our customers. That's how we're able to improve our product.
Right.
I can't take the credit for everything that we have and what we've done today. Because a lot of it has come from our customers and just listening to our customers and understanding what their pains are and how we can help them to have a better piece of equipment that's easier to use, that performs better and so forth. And that's really at the heart of what Apollo is all about.
Right. I would highly recommend, anybody doing cabinets, anybody doing furniture, anybody doing wrought iron fences, that they would use HVLP sprayers. And, I have my reasons why I chose to go back to them and use them, but can you just talk to my audience? I mean, you've been in this business for almost your entire life. And so, what's the benefit of an HVLP sprayer over an airless sprayer?
The first thing that Apollo teaches our customers is that there's really not one tool for everything. So we're not out there telling you that the HVLP turbine system is the be-all, end-all for every painting situation that you'll ever be in, because that's absolutely not true. If I wanted to spray the exterior of a house or there's no way I'm going to do that with an HVLP turbine. Could I? Sure. I mean, I could. But it would take me 10 times longer, and it just wouldn't be as efficient efficient in the way of time. Really, I think it's applying the right type of equipment to the right job. And like you said, certain types of finishing, refinishing, particularly like on-site work and things like that, where you're doing something in somebody's home and you really want to be able to control the overspray and know exactly where that's going. Besides the fact that you're wasting that paint if it sticks to the hardy board and all the other you're masking, but it's more about the environment and everything, and the reduction of your overall paint and the use or the experience really when you're using it, right? The benefits of the HVLP are the portability, the low overspray, and so which what most people know.
Right.
And so that's why, so you want to keep your projects to things that are realistic. The paints that you can spray out. There's some paints that are just not designed to spray through a turbine system. They need to have an airless system to spray them. And so knowing your paints and knowing really what the job, how the tools work properly, both an airless and an HVLP, that way you can then, as a painter, you can position that in your business right. And that way when you go into a job, you know you have both tools and the right tool for that particular job.
Yeah, I think, you touched on, a big part of it, the right tool for the job. And I think, one of the reasons why, I transferred back to, HVLP spraying was I kind of like migrated to spraying, a lot of 2K poly, products and, with an airless sprayer. I started getting runs all the time because I like to spray, the product, the substrate hanging, like doors. I can spray all 4 edges, both sides, all in one shot. It saves a lot of time, but I started getting a lot of runs. And, so then, I started experimenting with HVLP spraying, recently with furniture and cabinets and stuff. And, after 3 months, I haven't had a run, since then. So what I say, it is taking the pain out of painting. And another thing is the cleanup, the overspray. You touched on overspray, transfer weight of the product to the substrate and not having a lot of fallout. One of the pains of painting is going home and having paint all over you, cleaning paint up off your skin, cleaning paint up out of your ears, your nose, everything. And so with HVLP sprayers, you can spray all day long in a booth and you don't have overspray all over you. You don't have a massive mess on the floor. I know you also touched on it, because we're really big on painting cabinets, kitchen cabinets on site. So you can take an HVLP sprayer easily on site. You're going to create significantly less dust, silica dust, just overspray dust too. So your spray system has been, one of those game-changing systems for me, and I'm glad I'm actually transferring, back to it. And spraying furniture has been, it's made it actually really fun. You do have now, what we came here to see is the Precision 6, and so that has just come out. So what's that all about?
Yeah, so we've been able to take the latest and greatest turbine technology from the manufacturers here in the States and be able to build that into a new, more powerful system. So the same basic features that you have built into your Precision 5 that you've had and loved, you now have that same machine with now 12% more power. So what that enables the painter to do is to be able to even spray heavier finishes and that with their with the HVLP rather than having to use their airless, because that's the only thing that'll use that can spray it.
An experiment that we did years ago, with an HVLP sprayer, we sprayed some pool fences with an airless sprayer. We sprayed it with an HVLP sprayer. One pool fence took 3 gallons, the same with an HVLP. The other one, same size, took 17 gallons with an airless. So it's really the cost, in savings and product, using an HVLP is really going to make up the difference. Also, people have probably seen me, in some of my videos. I was painting a wrought iron fence right near a brand new car lot using oil-based product. Just not being afraid of having overspray floating out there, being carried in the wind. Can you talk about just a little bit like overspray airless sprayers, run at a specific PSI, HVLP sprayers run at significantly less PSI, and how does that affect overspray?
Well, obviously the more pressure you have, the more force you have behind those particles coming out of the spray gun, and the more bounce back that you're going to get. So as those particles come out of the gun, if they have a lot of velocity behind them, it's going to be so much that they actually bounce off the substrate. It's kind of, I use an analogy a lot of a tennis ball. If you throw a tennis ball at a wall and you throw that ball overhand, that ball is going to come straight back at you. Well, that's similar to what's happening with the airless systems, is they're blasting those particles out of the gun so so fast
Right.
that a lot of that is coming right back at you. That's why you end up getting covered in paint head to toe. With the turbine system, it's more like tossing the ball underhand. So it hits the wall and basically just drops right at the foot of the wall because there's no velocity behind it. It's not going to rebound off that substrate.
Right.
And so by allowing the particles to still be finely atomized, you can get them to lay onto the surface without them bouncing off, and that's what makes it so much more efficient.
Right.
But I think a lot of it also comes down to the controls. We talked a lot today about how much more control we have over the atomizer gun versus any kind of airless gun. Airless guns seem to be more getting dumbed down more or less nowadays, where you've got basically most of your control is in the pump and the tip, right? That's really the only controls you have, whereas with the HVLP, we've got not only different tip and air cap sizes, but then we can control the fan pattern widths within those nozzle sizes, and we can control the fluid flow much more accurately.
Right.
And then when we start talking about pressures and that too, right? We're talking tenths of a PSI as far as efficiencies in that versus hundreds of PSIs with an airless system.
Right.
So it's really kind of a whole different animal in general. And that's why I think, like for you, when you were talking about switching back and forth and getting frustrated and not finding originally your path with HVLP, because I think a lot of your audience also shares those same common concerns, and that is it's a lot more complicated, and wow, is it going to be really tough for me to learn this? And I think as you found out, once you kind of understand the way it works and that, it really is very simple to get them and to use those controls to your advantage.
Yeah, it just took me, just a little bit of time. I mean, I would think, or say probably took me about like a week.
Mm-hmm.
I was working, spraying furniture in a booth, and I just committed myself to, learning it and figuring it out. And I'm so glad I did, because it's actually simpler and easier than an airless sprayer. And what's interesting is, airless sprayers, one of the biggest fears with airless sprayers is overspray. And that's, in other countries and stuff in Europe, everybody's afraid of overspray. Some of the major manufacturers have tried to, tackle that problem by creating low pressure tips, and those low pressure tips are running at 800 to 1000 psi, and that is low compared to what we used to run them at like 2200 to 2800 psi. The Apollo, I'm typically running at 6.5 psi.
Right.
So I mean, we're talking
night and day.
Massive difference, night and day. And so you just don't have the overspray problems. You don't have, the dust on the ground in the booth. I think it's incredible. I've been painting, in my booth now, pretty consistently for the last 3 months, and I vacuumed my booth one time. And I think if I was doing the exact same thing with an airless sprayer, I'd be vacuuming the booth like every 2 days. And I gotta say, it's like, once, I was committed to, getting back to an HVLP, it's been, simple and easy. So absolutely glad that I've made that transition back to HVLP spraying.
So yeah, I mean, basically, we were talking earlier about how you went through all of this process and that, and I think one of the greatest things that you now have is that knowledge coming from airless and going at HVLP, going through those frustrations that other people have done as well, and now your audience can benefit from that, right? And so instead of it taking them a week or two like it did you to learn the system, now you've got the knowledge coming right from Chris himself, who's gone through that process and can help you and walk you through because he understands where you're coming from and he understands the frustrations, and that's a big part of it, right? And learning how to be able to make that crossover and feel good about it.
Yeah, I think that's part of my experience, with just painting in general. I started off painting and I never had a journeyman I worked under. I just started my painting company. I had no idea, what I was doing. So as I was self-taught, it actually gave me this perspective of how not to do things, because I would do things wrong, and then it gave me a perspective of how to fix the things that I did wrong. And then once I fixed it, then I had the perspective of how to do it right. And so I had like 3 different perspectives, which the guys I would hire, after all my years of painting, we just teach them how to do it right, and they never like really experienced failing, because we just said this is how you do it to have success, and they right off the bat started having success. And I think that's kind of one of the cool things about HVLP spraying now, as I've been just in there. I haven't had somebody looking over my shoulder saying, no, do this. I've been experimenting, learning. And one of the cool things about coming here, it's a simple thing, the overspray control valve. I had no idea that, I should be running it, all the way wide open. And I learned that from you. And now I get to go back, because I've been doing it, the opposite way. So I'll see the effect that it has by open it wide open, controlling the overspray by the machine itself, the digital readout. I just like to learn that way, and just to give me a different perspective, and that way I can share my perspective to my audience of how I was attempting to learn. And I think that's the value of our platform too, where people can get on, because I read, we get thousands of comments every month, and I read the comments, and I respond back to a lot of the comments, and it's kind of a platform where we can share ideas and stuff. So that's really cool.
No, it's an awesome opportunity, and I think what you guys do at Paint Life is really a great it's that learning tool that you don't have in the contractor business, unless you're lucky enough to be able to journeyman under somebody else or have that apprenticeship. How else are you going to learn?
Yeah.
And there's nobody else really out there that I don't believe has your skill and experience.
Right.
And by sharing those experiences, your audience can learn 10 times faster. There's no reason for them to go through the same mistakes that you did.
Well, John, it's been an absolutely amazing experience coming here. I really appreciate you hosting us, man, serving us lunch, serving us coffee, man, and really giving us a tour of the inside look of Apollo Sprayers and stuff. I've been a big fan of you. I've been a fan of your company and your products. So this has been great to come down here and see this and experience it, get some tips and tricks that I can share. Stay tuned for some of the really cool how-to videos and frequently asked questions that John and I did. So I appreciate it, John.
Thanks, Chris. Really appreciate you coming out here. You and Lisa have been awesome. We appreciate you guys taking the time to come down here and see us in sunny Southern California.
Yeah. Thank you very much for watching Apollo Sprayers with John Darroch here in Vista, California. Out.